Hello. Welcome to the How with Social Emotional Development with me, yours truly, Dr. Rebecca. Well, I have found that not enough people know about the how of social emotional development. How does it work? Well, no person is born knowing how to socialize and how to control emotions. Infants use emotional reactions like crying to gain attention without realizing they are using emotions. As infants grow, the children begin to observe the behavior of others. So, we are about to dive into the what, why, where, who, and when, all with remembering that behavior begins with each child's social emotional development. How will be addressed to some degree in every category listed underneath it. This can be used to guide you in your own home or classroom. Let's look at the what. After all, knowing how to define social emotional development is crucial to understanding how to apply social emotional development. Social development advances in stages and relies heavily on communication with other people. Well, teaching the ability to discern and apply communication in give and take formats. Social development thrives with social bonds are created, giving children experiences with socialization. Emotional development also advances in stages and gives the pull of inner thoughts, many times in reaction to communications and social interaction. Emotional development includes a child's self-awareness, social awareness, emotional regulation, and relationship building. So, the stages of the what? Erikson outlines what is known as a psychosocial development crisis that develops with internal conflict. Here are his first three stages. In stage 1, begins with birth and runs its course until approximately 18 months of age. In stage 1, children are learning the basics of trust. If the adults in their lives provide for basic needs, such as safety, food, clothes, nurturing, etc., the basis of trust can be learned. This allows children to begin the second stage, trusting those involved in their lives. Stage 2. The internal struggle of autonomy versus shame and doubt. In this stage, approximately 18 months through 3 years of age, the children are potty training, showing what their personal interests include, like what clothes to wear, what foods they like to eat. If the children learn trust through their first stage of development, they will be more likely to succeed finding autonomy given the opportunity. It is important for young children to begin a sense of personal independence. This is a time to offer reassurance. Have faith in your children's ability. Faith in each child is a crucial element to the development of a sense of autonomy and confidence. By finding independence and confidence, moving into the next stage of initiative versus guilt has a better chance with developing into initiative. In stage 3, initiative versus guilt, at about the ages 3 through 5, children are learning personal purpose. If they are allowed to explore their environment and guided correctly, when they make mistakes and make friends, this is a great time to begin directing their choices with questions that make them think about each situation before they act. Okay, let's talk about the why. Control of self decreases the risk for disruptive behaviors throughout the lifespan. What is not stated enough is that when children are not taught in the younger years how to control themselves, they are not only impacted by learned behaviors being reinforced, but brain development is also impacted. Our brain development is quite impressive. When we are young, that is. The younger we are, the faster our brain develops. As our brain physically changes with each new learned behavior, and behavior reinforced, children can develop disruptive behavior disorders. If the children are not consciously taught social emotional skills like a sense of belonging and identity, if not carefully thought about and taught, brain development can have negative consequences. Another thing to notice is that SEL impacts relationships. SEL, social emotional learning. If children are not taught to control their temper, for example, they may grow up using their temper to get what they want. This can lead to abusive behaviors, broken laws, and people getting hurt. This can definitely impact the relationship with others. Okay, what's next? Where? Where do us adults teach social emotional development to the children in our lives? An interesting question for social emotional development. Where should we help children learn about controlling their emotions and how to socialize? Well, this should be taught everywhere. Simply by working on our own social emotional development, we can set a good example. After all, the children look to us adults in their lives as an example of how to behave. Some examples of classroom social emotional learning could include: greet your children warmly as they enter your classroom. Use polite manners every time you speak to a child or to an adult in front of the children. Give children a chance to explain themselves with good listening. Apologize to children when a mistake is made. Explain to the children how you feel. Work at keeping home-based stress out of the classroom. Some examples of social emotional learning in family living can include a lot of similarities here. Greet the children warmly as they wake up. Use polite manners as much as possible. This counts for parents too. Good listening can be a tool to help develop a long-lasting, loving relationship. Apologize when you make a mistake and explain reasons why you have your feelings. Encourage children to ask questions. Who should teach social emotional skills? It does take a village. If our entire community takes a vested interest in how we demonstrate things like emotional control, our children will have a great start. There are so many ways that being part of a community can help our children with their own social emotional development. For example, as a community member, everyone can be polite, smile more, think of others' well-being, etc. This will lead to more contentment, happiness, and the ability to control one's own emotions. The reason of this being taught at such a young age is that later in life, children taught this will have more success and be in trouble less often. Our current systems justify paying money and attention to things like the jail system rather than developing mentally healthy children who will grow into responsible and well-adjusted adults. There, of course, is nothing like spending resources on fixing an issue before it's too late. This professor, myself, Dr. Rebecca, believes in providing resources to prevent future issues. By everyone spending money, time, resources into social emotional learning, the less we need to be concerned with the mental health crisis. So together, as parents, educators, and community, we need to be aware of and demonstrate emotional control and social responsibility to set a good example for the young ones who are still learning. Now, we talk about the when. When should we teach the smallest of our children about social emotional development? Well, the one word I can say is always. By adults using polite language, we are giving an example of how to use words correctly. By being aware of our own behavior in and out of children's line of sight, we can teach by example. By being aware that children may be able to hear you when you can't see them. By guiding the children when they struggle with their own emotions or social interactions. So, we defined social emotional development: the how, the what, the why, the who, and the when. So why do we need to know about troubles with social emotional development? Well, the first thing that comes to mind that can be trouble is the temperament or the mood of children. I've seen adults give up on children because their temperament was no good. But really, what does the temperament or mood tell us? A child's temperament or mood could tell us that children are experiencing social emotional interruptions. They could be confused from a divorce at home. They could be experiencing stress, developmental disorders, diagnosed and undiagnosed. They could be confused because of divorce. They could be experiencing bullying on the playground or at home. Now, of course, temperament and mood can be thought of as a natural, as a personality that is impacted by social emotional learning interruptions. Temperament, as described by Malik and Meyer, have 3 categories. In category 1, a child can be easy or flexible. This category includes children who are friendly and easygoing, comply with routines such as sleep and meal times. They adapt to change as well and have a calm disposition. In category 2, children are active or feisty. You know the ones. The children who are fussy. They don't like to follow routines and have irregular sleeping schedules. They're apprehensive to a new environment and new people. They have intense reactions and get easily upset. Then we have category 3, slow to warm up or the overly cautious. Children who may be less engaged or active have a shy disposition and to a new situation and to new people. They might withdraw or have a negative reaction. They become more comfortable and warm up with repeated exposure to a new environment or person. Whatever a child's temperament or mood, there is always a reason for their behaviors, even when they can't identify their reason. And even when you can't identify their reason, it's not always obvious. Not very long ago, we didn't pay much attention to social emotional development. In fact, when I was about 11 years old, I had a very interesting conversation with my Aunt Susie. I had an issue with getting headaches. And I told her that my theory for this happening was because of stress. Now, Aunt Susie was very quick to correct me, stating that children don't experience stress. Now, I adored my Aunt Susie, but something in me knew this information was not quite right. I walked away knowing that I had to keep searching for an answer. I still believed then, and now, that children do not only experience stress, But stress can interrupt social emotional development. In fact, it can interrupt brain development. So we can conclude that there are influences that involve the what, why, where, who, and when. And remember that behavior begins with each child's social emotional development. We can now define social emotional development as emotional development that includes self-awareness, social awareness, emotional regulation, responsible decision making, with the overlap of relationship building that brings us full circle back to social development. The trouble? Well, the trouble begins when children are not taught how to establish emotionally sound relationships at a very young age that involve development interruptions. It was such a pleasure to be with you today. I look forward to learning new and wonderful things with each new day. God bless.